All right, welcome back. Tuesday night, we are live from Redhook here at the Function House, and we want to welcome a very special guest tonight, someone that we know for a very, very
Veteran.
long time, an OG in this game of DJing, Mr. Sal Parm, Plasmic Honey.
Thank you for having me on the show, guys. It's a pleasure. I'm really into what you guys are doing. I started watching like the first or second week, and I was like, wow, these guys are onto something. This is really, really cool.
It's a pleasure to have you, man.
Yeah, man.
Everybody's talking about it.
You got some serious history.
I do. I actually am so old now that I wrote it down today because
He came prepared.
I wrote stuff down because I have no idea how I was going to cram in. I'm 43 now this summer.
Wow, you're an old fart, bro.
Yeah.
You
I'm
look
almost
great,
as old
bro.
as you guys.
You look great.
No.
Wrinkles, he's still good. He still has all his hair.
That's any day now. Any day now. In the sink every day, I call Anthony Acid, and I'm like, there's more hair in the sink. What am I going to do? It's just
He's a
crazy.
good guy to call.
I call Anthony. Anthony goes, Palm, there's nothing you could do. You just got to learn to deal with it.
He's got no hair, right?
Mine's going to the hats.
It's it. It is what it is. You got to learn to just go with it. But I actually had to write everything down because I said, how am I going to cram in? I have so much history behind being blessed to be a part of so many great memories. And this business, it's hard to keep those memories.
So let's start. You're born and raised in Brooklyn, right?
Born and raised
Let's
in
start.
Bensonhurst.
Let's start there. How did you get into the scene, being born and raised from Brooklyn?
Well, I actually wish that the young kids today were blessed the way I was and had the experiences I had. Growing up in Bensonhurst in like the 80s in Bay Ridge, just, your mother yelling out the window, Salvatore, where you going? And I would just tell her, Mom, I'm just going around the block on my Huffy. Meanwhile, I was listening to the sound of thumping music. It was block parties. The
Yes.
block parties today don't exist like the block parties from when we grew up.
Well, because people looked forward to going to block parties because there was a DJ, there was music. It was like a night out.
Yeah, it was a totally different thing. So your mother would yell out the window, where you going? Just make sure you ride the block around you ride your bike around the block and I'm going to watch for you. She would be watching TV. I would go search 3-4 blocks, 68, 69th Street, 70th Street. And then you would see the block closed off and you were like, the music was thumping. Back then, it was like the DJ brought 8 gem sound towers.
Yes.
And in Brooklyn, it was like the more, the better. It wasn't less is more. It was like, let's fill every second house up with a speaker.
Yeah.
And the DJ made like $175 and he brought half of Sam Ash. It was great. So I was like 13 years old riding my Huffy, and I was fascinated. I would look at, Technique 1800s. They weren't even 1200s. They were the round knobs. And I would go there and be that annoying little fat kid in Brooklyn and just stare.
That was you.
That was me. And I would just stare to the point where the DJ took his one ear or whatever he had, and he was like, they were cool. They were really nice. They were like, you want to spin? And I was like, I was 13 years old. But I just loved it. Back then, do you guys remember it was like Native Love, Bobby O, She Has a Way. It was all those records. And you were listening to disco for the first time as a 13-year-old. I grew up, my parents are real Ginzaloons. My father's from Napoli, my mother, Sicily, Castellamare. So they didn't play that kind of music in the house. They played Italian music. But when you got to experience that, I was wowed. I was like,
that's
what
where you
is
got.
that?
That's where you got the bug.
That's where I got the bug.
So
13 years old, block parties.
13-year-old, just running around. I was blessed. Up the block, I lived on 71st Street and 14th Avenue. There was a record store. When I rode my bike and said, there's a record store? That poor guy, Charlie, who owned Infinity Records on 13th and 71st, I was in there every single day. I went out and got a job just so I can buy records to play on my mother's little Panasonic. She had an 8-track, the 8-track with the turntable where the needle would shake as it was playing. But I went out to get a paper out just so I can be in that record shop every day buying records. And then my older brother, who said, you can get laid if you play music as a DJ? So what happened was him and the 2 kids in the neighborhood, Tommy and Mike, they all went out and bought gem sounds. They went out and started doing the block parties. And I was like, I'll do all the work. So this schmuck, I was the guy doing all the DJing, and they were out getting all the girls. They were 18 and I was 13. But I was the laborer, And I just got into it. Then my parents pulled we're moving to Staten Island. I'm like, where? Where the fuck are you moving? Staten Island. Where's Staten Island? And that's where it really hit for me. So
what age did you make the move to Staten Island?
between 13 and 14.
13 and 14.
Yeah, it was just so quick. Boom, went to Staten Island.
So what age was it when you got your first real gig, real nightclub gig?
16.
And where was that?
If I start talking about, all right, I'll say it anyway. I actually was a DJ 5 nights a week in a titty bar. I don't recommend anybody putting DJing over school, but I was so into it. I was making insane money at 16 years old that I had to convince my parents.
How did you convince greaseball parents?
Well, that's a story in itself. We definitely don't have enough time, but I'll give you the short version.
Okay.
Growing up Italian, you get to your parents, they throw you christenings, communions. It could be in a house, it could be in a catering hall, wherever it was. They get the gifts, and the real parents will save your money for you and say, when you're 18, we're going to give you a book, and you're going to go buy your car. And that's what you look forward to. Not me. I was like, no, I want to buy turntables. I want to buy turntables. My mother was like, get got these turntables. What is a turntable? I was like, Ma, it's like that. She goes, no, I got one. You don't need that. I'm Sal Jr., my father's Sal Sr. I had to have a sit-down with my dad and be like, Dad, listen to me. I know you got like $2,000 of my money. And that's a lot of money in like 1990, 1985. I was like, I need that money. I have a dream. I have a passion. I want to be a DJ. So he goes, this is not going to be easy. We got to talk to Hitler about this. So we had to go have a sit-down with my mother that she would say, he doesn't want a car when he's 18. He wants to buy DJ equipment at 15 years old.
Sure.
First, they wouldn't give me all my money. And I bought Gemini 1100s, belt-driven turntables. I learned how to DJ on belt-driven turntables. And I started going out doing block parties and whatnot. And then, sure enough, they saw I was bringing in money. They gave me my money. I bought 1200s. I think it was like a Newmark mixer back then, whatever it was. And I just started DJing everywhere. And it just snowballed. And it probably made some moves I shouldn't have. I just wasn't into school. I was DJing when you wake up, before you go to bed. My mother would say, what is this? Boom, 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 all day. And the walls would shake in the house, the garage, things would fall off. My mother would come in. I'd run out the garage door. I say, please, she's not going to break any of my equipment when I get back. Please tell me that it's going to be there. Like, she would do anything to not hear that. And then it got to the point where I was like, I gotta move out. I gotta move out because this is, messing up.
So when did production come into play?
So in Staten Island is where it really happened for me because at 16, I started DJing everywhere. I was DJing in topless bars. I was doing all the little bars. I got the name Sal Parm because I was offered, there was this guy who had this club on Bay Street. Now, I wasn't even driving at the time, and I had to get my father to get my crates of records in his car with the turntable coffin, that big rug coffin.
Which club was this on Bay Street?
This was Giggles, it was called.
Giggles.
Okay. Giggles, right? And I had to get my dad to drive me with all the stuff. And it was like, oh, my God, your dad's driving. But the guy was this guy, Steve. And I don't know exactly the story, but he had a real raspy voice. So he was a very intimidating guy. He goes, what's your name? I'm going to put you in the advance. I said, my name is Sal. He goes, no, that's not good. You're a little chubby. He goes, Sal Palm. We're going to call you Sal Palm. Swear to God. He gave me my name. 500-600 kids a night, all the fraternities and sororities. I wasn't even old. I shouldn't even have been in the club because I'm 16. I can't be in the club. But my dad again convinced my mom that it was okay, and I was just
because you were making money.
Oh, I was bringing home.
He's like, oh, he's
that's
making
it,
money
yeah.
to pay the mattress, right? You put all the money under the mattress.
It was great. It was great. My father saw something special, and I was following through with not just a hobby. It was a passion, and my father saw that, so he took care of my mother.
So you enjoyed it. You loved it.
I enjoyed it. It wasn't even about the money for me. I couldn't do anything but DJ. That was just every day I thought about it. It took over, academics, but I didn't care.
So DJing eventually went to production.
It went to production. There was another DJ in my neighborhood where I moved, and I was like, who's this kid, Richie Santana? Who is this kid? I got to meet this kid. So I remember it like it was yesterday. He's probably rolling off of his bed right now because he's old, and he's probably sleeping or getting ready for bed. Definitely past his bedtime. But he happened to be like 14, 15. I went to his house to see who he was, and I wanted to meet him. I was like, yo, you want to battle? Like, that's how crazy it was. It was so funny. Richie's been one of my best friends still till today.
And back in the early days, he didn't go as Richie Santana. He went like as DJ Ecstasy.
DJ
right?
Ecstasy.
Yeah,
whatever. But he had the production itch, and I had the itch, but he already had some equipment. So I was like, yo, I want to learn. We need to learn. Who are we going to learn from? He goes, there's these two guys, Anthony Acid and Brutal Bill, and they got a studio down the block in Brutal Bill's basement. At the time, they were called Two Direct. So, again, we had no idea, but you heard the name Anthony Acid, Brutal Bill. You were like, oh, who are they? You got it. We got to get in there. So one day, Richie said, yo, I know Billy. I'll get us to go in there. Richie and Anthony were working on a track. Sure enough, I don't know, 14, 15, there comes Sal and Richie. We had no idea. We were just so intimidated. But they were working on house music. They were releasing records. They were in the shit already. You know what I mean?
Well, they were a few years older, right? So.
Yeah, well, Anthony and I are 10 years apart.
Okay.
So, you know, we would go there, and then from there, it was just a ton of phone calls. Trying to hang out with Anthony. And there was no cell phones back then. I don't even know if there was beepers. But I got to be annoying. I got to ring Billy's bell every day. I got to get his information and Anthony's information into this head. I was probably the most persistent young kid you'll ever find today because 7 days a week, I owe these guys because I was with them like a sponge, just grabbing everything I could, to the point that I became the guy they call to today because that's how much information I absorbed from everybody all these years. And they actually got it started for me, Richie, and a lot of guys.
So they gave you guys the opportunity to learn how to produce.
Yeah, plus on our own. The persistence of staying at home after they devoted those 2-3 hours, and they were like, all right, like, little kid, you got to go. Like one of those things, like, because, you know, we would be that guy asking a million questions while they were trying to pursue their living, you know. But they did things for me that the young kids today won't allow us to do for them because the opportunities aren't there, unfortunately. They would go and sell records. They would make a record. It would be 6 o'clock at night. Tomorrow they would be like, yo, we're going up to see so-and-so. I'll leave the name out. And he owes us X amount of dollars from that last track. Yo, if this fucking guy don't give us our money, we're fucking up his place. And I'll be like, this is the kind of business I'm getting into? But they were for real. I'm going to tell you one story. So Anthony and Billy says, yeah,
you know
Sal.
this is going to be archived. On the
I don't care.
Okay.
They were like, yeah, Sal, you can come. And the whole trip they were talking. I think Anthony had a Porsche 944 back then. And I was sitting in the back. It was like this. And I was like, yo, we're going to fuck some people up right now for money. I was like, this is crazy. This is the record business.
Yeah.
You know, you would make a record and the next day you go get a check. That's how it used to be. Not like, hey, 9 months went by in Beatport, I made $1.50. Not because of Beatport, because nobody buys music anymore. Beatport's a great outlet to still continue to profit from it. It's just not there anymore. Back in the day, you made a record, you went up to a record label, you got $3,000. Boom. You and your partner went $1,500, you went out to eat, you lived like a king. Let's make another one tomorrow. That was the scene, you know? So there was this one dude, I'll leave his name out, happened to owe Anthony and Billy money. It was the funniest thing that ever happened to me because it was good cop, bad cop. No rehearsal, no nothing. They walked into this place, and while I think it was Billy was talking to the guy, doing Billy, trying to get him to give him the money, Anthony just takes a screwdriver out. The guy had a rack, and he just starts unscrewing the gear. The guy had a Yori, Anthony's just like, shh, and he just starts unscrewing the mixer. And he's like, you don't have to give us a check. We're going to take these 3 things. We'll see you next week. And I was like, yo, this is really happening right now. That was the record business. But I was fortunate enough.
Anthony Acid didn't tell us that when he was on the show.
No, of course not. Of course not. But that shit really
left those
happened.
details out, Anthony.
No, that shit really happened. They were gangster. They were my original gangsters because watching them, they paved the way for guys like me, Richie, and everything because they kind of told us the do's and do nots. You can get screwed back in the day, big time in this business, you know? So moving forward. Richie,
Talk about Plasmic Honey.
All right, so from there, I had the itch. I wanted to make records. I wanted to make records. Anthony would tell me, go out, buy an Atari STE, little screen. Go out and buy a keyboard. Go out and do this, practice that. I went out, practiced. Richie was doing his. Richie came up with Sweet Dreams at the time. Yeah. He was making Sweet Dreams. I came up with another record.
That record was huge.
It was huge. I came up with a record that I never released because I was a perfectionist. If it wasn't perfect, I wasn't releasing it. But I would bring records every day to Anthony's, to Billy's, just to test them out. And Richie would do the same thing. Then it all came together when Anthony got a studio down on Bay Street. That became the sickest crew ever because Anthony put together this thing where Plasmic Honey was created. Peter Bailey would hang out every day. Anthony Acid. Every day you'd have Mike Macaluso. Razor and Gita would show up. Jason Ojeda. You name it in this business from that era, that was a place where we all met up and just BS'd about the business 3-4 nights a week. Everybody brought their records to test.
So what time frame was this? Like what years?
This was like 97, 98 when it all started. So I had this record. Anthony goes, I got this guy. He keeps hitting me up. He wants to work. You know, he could play keyboards, but, you know, I think the two of you might be a match. I don't have time right now to work with him. What's his name? His name is Christian. Christian became the other half. Plasmic Honey became my partner. The second we got in the studio, we made Ride the Trip the next day.
Wow.
We just made Ride the Trip the next day. I had the beat. I was humming. He was coming in. He was playing. We found a sample. That was a sample. Let me take you on a trip. Let me take you on a ride. And we're like, I said it. No. We just said, yeah, I said it in the mic. So we just took a sample, put it in there. And before you know it, we got hit up. There was Jersey was getting real big, the Jersey Shore. There was a DJ, Denny Chetos.
Yep.
He gave us a shot. I think it was, I was the first guy in that whole area to buy a CD burner. In order to play your records, if you didn't have a record deal, how are you going to play them? You had to bring you can't bring DAT players, which that's another story. I got a great story with DAT player. Back in the day when we were DJing Expo and all the clubs in the city, Anthony would bring a DAT player. And when I bought the actual $2,000 for a smart and friendly, the blank CDs were $15, and you had one shot at getting it right. If there was an error, you just lost $15. And you would sit there like this 74 minutes. You're like, please let this burn. Please don't let this crash. You were like crossing your fingers to get your music.
You have to burn it in real time, right?
You had to burn it in real time.
Yeah.
So
you'd have to let the song play, and as the song was playing,
it was the sickest
CD.
thing ever to where we are today.
It's crazy.
It's insane. So, that day we made the record. All of a sudden, Denny went out and played it. He was the resident of Club Abyss at the time. And he started getting so much play. And Anthony was like, I got to fix this. That is a dope record. I want it. I got to mix it down for you. So a lot of people don't know. People watching this show know. But a lot of regular people that aren't in the industry or the business, they don't know there's several stages of making a record. There's the idea, there's the production, and then there's the mix down. Without the proper mix down, your listener can't get an idea of where you need to be. What message you're trying to put out there. Your kick's not right. Your keys aren't right. The vocals aren't right.
So Anthony mixed down your tracks.
Well, because at the young age of 17, 18, you don't have the experience yet. And there's a lot of things that Anthony mixed and touched in this industry that nobody knows. But I would say 9 out of 10 of the big records, no matter if you guys made a bomb, Anthony was the guy who touched it at the end to let the listener know what your bomb really should sound like. So the mix down is very important. It's like the wax on a car. It's just a dirty car without, So it's very, very important. So Ride the Trip, Denny was playing the unpolished version, and it was getting so much heat already. So Anthony said, no, I got to touch that. Anthony went in, polished it up. It came out banging. All of a sudden, my phone rings. It was Jellybean Benitez. He's like, I heard you making some noise. I want you to come in. So now I said, I got a call from Jellybean Benitez. As a young kid, 17, 18 years old, you're like, wow. Now, in that process, I was getting gigs just as a DJ, DJing all over the place. Manhattan. Anthony put me in the hip-hop room. Anthony was doing Expo in the main room. Peter would come in and do a set here and there. Richie was doing his thing, DJing. So we were starting our little crew. It was all beginning for us. We still didn't have the name Plasmic Honey at that point. So Christian and I went in to hear Jellybean out. Boom. Check on the table. He goes, I want to sign you to an album. Me and Christian looked at each other. We were like, we just made one record. But he saw something. He's a big visionary, Jellybean. I give it up to him. He saw something. He's heard something in that one record. Special thanks to people like Denny who played it out and gave us the instant exposure.
Yep.
And then as soon as Jellybean signed this and we had motivation. See, I did probably one of the hardest things ever. At the young age of 19, I got married and had kids while trying to support myself as a DJ and a producer. That's unheard of today. You can't do that today. But I was so determined in my passion, I didn't expect the money, and that's when the money comes, when you don't do it for money. So I was able to support 3 kids and a marriage being a DJ producer, so that's unheard of today. But I did that. So anyway, Jellybean put the money on the table. We signed the deal. We started making records. Funny stories. Anthony told this story on the show. We went to give Junior Vasquez. Who's Junior Vasquez? Junior Vasquez. You don't know who Junior is? And that's like how Anthony would approach it. So he would take us to see him. So one night, I had gone, and I wanted to give Junior Vasquez, I think it was Take Me to the Top. It was our second record. I already started getting some wind under me. I felt ballsy. I was like, yeah, this guy's going to play it, But I didn't know how delicate of a DJ Junior Vasquez was, where, he has to like you to play a record. He has to like your material, but he has to like you. So it was Anthony's birthday party, and I met Victor Calderon that night. Jonathan Peters threw a little something for Anthony. He went on stage. They put a pink cape on him. New York was an amazing scene back then. You had 2,000 people in a club. It was straight. It was gay. No fights. Everybody dancing. No phones. Nobody was doing this. Oh, my God, this DJ is amazing. He's great. I'm having such a good time. No, you're fucking not. You're standing on your fucking phone instead of dancing. I'd love to get on the dance floor, take your phone, throw it against the wall, and say, dance. Fucking dance, because that's what I'm doing. I'm here making you dance. I'm not here so you can text your friends how great I am. I'm glad that you want to take a video and post it. It's awesome. They didn't do that when I was DJing all over America. There was no, I don't have any records of the film. And I got to a point where I was big, where I was DJing 3 gigs, different places, you know, Philly, Boston, Dallas, Denver, Chicago. It was great, but there was none of this. It was people going.
It was undocumented.
Undocumented. People were going to get fucked up and say, I'm going here because this guy is going to play great music and he's going to make me dance, and I'm going to leave dripping wet, that in the wintertime, the clubs, people knew they were getting sick the next day.
You have countless hits. I mean, there's a ton of records that you made. Have you ever ghost produced for anybody? And how do you feel about ghost producing?
Next question. No. That's a touchy subject, because getting back to not wanting to do this business for money, I was put in an uncomfortable situation as I had twin boys, my best friends in the world, Andrew and Michael, my daughter Christina. When you push comes to shove, and all of a sudden you're so used to getting these checks for the records, and then all of a sudden Napster came out, LimeWire, and all of a sudden you're not getting offered checks anymore. But back in the day, you were getting offered this amount of money to do remixes. And you were like, did they just pay me that to do a remix of a Leanne Rimes record? I did a remix of Amber. I did Whitney. Christian and I did so many remixes. You're like, did they just pay us that much money? Then we heard there were guys out there like Hex Hector. He was getting paid 5 times the amount of that, rightfully so. Matt Quill, Dez, Heck, they were amazing producers, you know? But the money was so much. So I got to the point where I wasn't making enough money to, do I give up my passion and have to go get, in words of, you know, like your mom, go get a real job. You have to go do that. You're like, oh, man, I'm not putting aside my passion. This is what I want to do. This is what I love to do. So what do? Someone comes over to you who doesn't have the talent but could DJ and says, I'll give you that much money if you make this record for me. And if you're in my position, you go, I know I'm a perfectionist. I can't do this record unless I give it my all, because I'll never give it to the guy. I'll feel like jaded, like I'm cheating. So I have to give it my best. But I can't make it sound like me either. So now you're scratching your head to come up with a new sound and let someone else live off that sound. So to answer your question, unfortunately, I have done it in the past. Will I ever do it again? Absolutely fucking not. No shot. You couldn't pay me $100,000. Why?
What about $1 million?
Not $1 million. I'll tell you why. I'd rather be broke and happy, because it eats away at you when you see somebody. If you can actually produce your ass off and you have countless hits, but you're overwhelmed with work, and you're like, yo, Plasmic Honey, yo, Parm, listen, I got 3 remixes on the tape. And this has happened to me by great individuals, and I did it not even thinking twice. Why? Because they can make that record. They don't need me. But they're overwhelmed. They got 3 remixes due. Back in the day, you had deadlines.
So you're saying if a DJ could make the record, and you know that he's a great producer, you would help him out and make the record for him. But someone who can't produce,
that just says, yo,
you don't want to produce for them.
Well, yeah, no,
that makes sense.
It's fucking whack, and I'll tell you why it's whack.
It's whack for that person as well, because they're taking a shortcut.
Not only are they taking a shortcut, today more than ever. Back in the day, it was like this, but today more than ever, your material that you release is your business card to getting gigs. Back in the day, yes, without my records, I would have never had the opportunity to, make so many friends, meeting you guys out there, I would have never been out there and seen, oh, that's the guy that made that, oh, that's the guy that made Africa, Take Me for Funeral. I would have never had that opportunity if I didn't make those records. So guys that can DJ, because there's a million zillion good DJs, when they make that record, now that name is on your tongue. It doesn't deserve to be on your tongue, because there's a lot of dope DJs out there. But it's on your tongue because someone else made a record for them. That's what I don't respect. That's where I lose all respect. And there's a couple of you out there, I'm not going to blow you up and call you out.
But sure? Are you sure?
I'm positive. I won't do it. But there's a couple of them out there that I go like this. But, you know,
Well, maybe they're in a situation where, their back's against the wall also.
absolutely.
So,
And I've done it, so that's why I know. But it does eat away at you
what
you
about,
could be putting your own name on that.
what about now? What's going on with production now? You getting back into it?
Now I'm in a great situation. I'm in a great spot because I did everything backwards. My kids are now grown. I have 3 beautiful children that are adults. I have 19-year-old twin boys. My daughter's 23. I'm in a great spot to make the sickest comeback ever because the passion, when you're serious, it doesn't ever go away.
What about the sound that's totally different?
Totally
now?
different. So that's what I
So
wanted to do today.
what is the sound now that you're leaning towards?
Here's a crazy part because throughout everything I just told you, the 3 of us here, we've all been mobile DJs, and we've all done mobile parties since the age 13 till now, doing weddings. And those people still dance their asses off. Right. And it's not like going to a club. Those people are there to get fucked up, drink. They got a hotel. They're going to eat. They're giving a abusta. They're putting the money in the envelope. So they say, I'm getting my money's worth here. And they dance their ass off, and they have a great time. So I see that, and I'm like, I see what they dance to. And I don't play anything that they don't dance to. I'm not, knocking myself. But I know what works and what don't work. I've made Techno Records. I actually was blessed to be released on Dubfire's label. Chus and Ceballos, amazing producers. I love the tech house. I love the techno. But every now and then, more than every now and then, when I'm at a wedding, if I'm doing that right now, and if I'm playing a Swedish House Mafia record, Laid Back Luke, this guy, those are the reaction records. And those are the records to me that are still making people lose their shit. But you'll go and hear Boris at a party. Boris is a very good friend of mine. And he makes people dance too. And that's a totally different sound. I love what Boris plays. I love what Steve Angelo plays. So for me right now, I'm not going to come here tonight and go and buy a bunch of records just trying to get back into the club scene and say, I just bought these records last week and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play on the Function House as if I'm gigging right now. Tonight, I'm going to do a classic show. Why? I want some of the viewers and the listeners. There's a lot of guys our age, but there's a lot of young kids that are actually talking about you guys right now. And they're like, yo, and they're going to strive to get on this show. And they weren't able to see how great of times I'm talking about we all had. So I want to play as many of those records I can right now in a short period of time that we're going to be here. Just slam them all in, a minute and a half of each, whatever, and just give them the energy that we gave. We were able to play 9, 10, 11-minute records back in the day. We had extended 9-hour sets. Now you go to get booked in a club, you're like an hour and a half, you see the DJ wiping his foot. What the fuck did you just do? You played for 90 minutes. Are you fucking kidding me? Jonathan Peters used to play for 36 hours. And then you still walk in the club, and he'd be like, what's up, baby? How you doing, baby? He'd be still chilling,
Well, I think that the tough part about DJing today, especially like if you're an open format guy, is that the attention spans of the crowd you're playing for, they can't hear something longer than a certain amount of time.
Oh, well, I didn't get into his stories yet. What's up, Ant?
Anthony,
Ant, what's up?
what's going on?
This guy's out of his mind, bro.
He's completely nuts.
Oh, no, you haven't seen nuts yet. I can start fucking blowing up spots. You want me to blow up spots? I can blow up spots. We got, let's see, the Crazy Kid Now bunch. Jason Ojeda, Hurricane Ojeda. He's got to be the fucking baddest, funniest guy in our crew from back in the day. When Christian...
But wait, Sal.
What?
You have to get out of the loop mode section. That's very important. We got to get everything done now. After tonight, everything's got to get finished.
Right. So what he's trying to say is be about it and now that you have an opportunity and go out there and get it. Because he knows how talented I am. I know how talented he is.
I think we all know how talented
But
you
no,
are.
I got to go out there and do it now because life threw me a lot of curveballs. But
You're still standing,
I'll
bro.
do the patting on the back. Don't worry about it. I'll do the patting on the back.
Tell him, Anthony. Tell him.
More Mixdowns coming your way.
That's it. Just keep feeding me work, Sal.
Yeah, well, if anybody needs Mixdowns, again, whether they know or they don't know or they pretend not to know, Anthony has touched a lot of the records back in those days. And these kids today...
Hold on. Let me go cry now because you're making me feel good. So I'll let you guys get back to your interview.
Okay, I'll give it some strokes. I'll give it some strokes. Don't worry.
All right, and I'll talk to you soon.
You know what he forgot to talk about? Hang up on him. Let me tell. He forgot to talk about the studio when he was here. I mentioned a little bit, but you guys really, did you guys remember ever?
I went to that studio a few times.
the stuff that went on in that studio, I can't say in case you ever get picked up by a real show, but the sickness of just you're knocking on the door and you open up and there's Jason Ojeda from Long Island. There's, Razor Guido. There's Mike Macaluso from Jersey. No matter what, it was just everybody wanted to be in there just to hang and talk music. And everybody had hit records out. And the best part about this, there was no animosity like today. We're like, yo, fuck that kid. I don't want to talk to him. Everybody wanted to help everybody.
It was a serious time, I think, for the tri-state area in music and DJs and nightclubs. So it was just like, it was a mesh of a bunch of
Plus,
things during
there was
that time.
a lot of checks floating around.
Checks everywhere,
So
bro.
everybody was
So
making money.
There was money. There was a good nightlife scene. There was a ton of great clubs, the big clubs in Manhattan. You had a ton of big scenes happening at the time with the Sound Factory and Club Expo and all these different clubs. Like, that was a time in its own.
Unlike
you know?
no other. There will never be another
and then
time
you
like
had, all you guys who were producing and were producing the hot tracks at that time. I mean, it was just a...
It was a New York
great
City
run.
sound that
It was a
you guys
sound.
controlled.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even Victor Calderon, that night that I went to for Anthony's birthday, when I met Victor Calderon, ever since the day I met Victor and Anthony introduced us and I gave him my stuff, he then broke my stuff into the gay scene. Victor was doing Roxy at the time and all that. And that blew me up even more, getting gigs. And I couldn't thank guys like him enough. Junior Vasquez. Junior took such a liking to us. We would bring him a record. By the time we got down the stairs in Twilo, it was on. Who could ever dream the DJ like Junior Vasquez, where you dream of a guy playing? We went down the stairs and it was on. I mean, those are 12, 15-hour sets. We could have been there patiently waiting by the booth with Razor Guido, Jeff Escape, Eddie Baez, all of us just
But
sitting
that's
there.
how you knew you guys were making bombs.
That's
Yeah.
how we knew we would, but never, we're so grateful for those opportunities by people like, and Junior, man, he would tear it up in there. You guys remember those nights? Victor, tear it up. Jonathan, tear it up.
Yeah, I mean, those were when DJs were playing marathon sets and
Marathon
and
sets.
you had
That was the resident DJ.
that was the resident
That doesn't
DJ.
exist anymore.
You had a bunch of rooms in the city, and each one of those rooms had a resident, and they would play for 10, 12, sometimes 15 hours.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're ever going to have a time like that ever again.
How about a time where, and I don't want to sound like the old angry man. We just ate. The guys had great sushi. I don't want to sound like I'm hangry or angry, but me, Richie, and Anthony would go, and we would go to the city every week. And if we made 800, 1,000, not even big yet with the records, so we weren't getting the big money. We were just getting the local bars. We would spend double that at Satellite, 8 Ball, Decadence. Dennis would come in. I quit smoking, but please blow smoke in my face. Well, you were allowed to smoke cigarettes while you were record shopping. Yeah. So we would just light up. Anthony had one long ash. It would never fall on the record, but the ash would just stick out of his mouth, and people would walk in, and we would just be playing records. And it was like, that guy would be like, give me one of those, give me one of those, and everybody would just point. Because, Dennis would give you a stack. I saved your special stack. And he would pull it out from underneath, and he only had 3 copies.
I remember
I gave
that
one
guy.
to Junior and one to Jonathan.
What happened?
That's how he would be.
What happened to that guy? Is
I
he
don't
still
know. I
around?
hope he's okay, because he was an amazing individual. I haven't seen him.
Did he own the
20
record
years.
shop, or he just worked there?
It wasn't for me to know that. I just know that he was such a gem, because for certain people, from I'm sure Razor, Guido, Eddie Baez, Mike, Anthony, me, Richie, certain individuals he really liked that he knew we were playing the big spots. He held back records that he only got test pressings, 8 copies, 9 copies. But you could bet your ass if there was 3 copies, it was Junior, Jonathan, and somebody like that. But that's what made the business great, because I wanted to go hear those records that I wasn't able to buy. Now they don't have that pain, the kids today.
I know. So listen, we want to get you on the set.
Okay.
So I guess to wrap things up, just 2 quick questions. One, is there anything that, looking back on where you started and where you are now, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Yes, I wish Mark Zuckerberg, is that his name? I wish he would have had Facebook rocking and rolling when we were big. I wish the guy who did Instagram, what's his name? Another whack job. I wish they were all around while we were around, because while we were making this much money, really DJing and tearing it up, and people would leave dripping wet, like shower wet, Now these DJs are going up there playing programmed sets, and it's just like a mix playing, and they're getting paid an entire, like you could put a down payment on a house and they're DJing for one night, and I just feel it's unjustified that the people that deserve it, the Jonathans, the Juniors, the Victor Calderons, well, Victor's still doing amazing. He, always evolves, he reinvents himself. But a lot of the guys that didn't get that big payday and really put the time in, I wish that we had the social media that's around today, because that's how a lot of these guys are doing it. Marketing. We didn't have any marketing. Before we do go, I want to mention my marketing guy at the time was my manager who passed away. He was an amazing individual. He worked at Jellybean, Mario Allion. And the guy who actually taught me how to DJ when I was 13 was Tommy Sozzi. When I moved from Brooklyn to Staten Island, I knew how to DJ.
He was
but
part of the Dynamic Duo.
Dynamic
right?
Duo. He was Tommy Musto's partner. I lived around the block from him. One day he had his house open. He had the speakers going. He had a wall-to-wall records. I introduced myself to him. I was his little protege, and he taught me how to mix. And the deal was he had a Snapple. Snapple just came out. He had a Snapple Mystic route in the city, 3 in the morning in the summer. My parents let me go on and help with the hand truck in Manhattan at 13, 14 years old. And I would load up the stores, and he would pay me. He wouldn't stiff me. He would pay me. But the bigger payday was he would devote an hour before going to bed to teaching me how to really ride a mix for a minute. Riding a mix. He taught me how to play pitch and all those crazy things. And he had passed away at a really young age, but I want to give props to him. He taught me how to, before the production, before all this other great stuff that I've been to. And all the nightclubs, whoever blessed me, from Rhode Island, Regina, to Philly. I had residencies at DJs, Hunkabunkers, Silo, Mikey B, gave me a spot in Staten Island. That really set things off for me. I had a Thursday residency, 1,200 people a night at Club Silo. And my boy Mikey B gave me the opportunity. I was able to make a record. Christian and I would make a record, and I would test it out that night in front of 1,200 local kids who would flip out. Then you'd go sell some CDs, and then that all brought in, it generated revenue. It was just a different time. Now you make a record. In 13 seconds, the entire world has it. You're lucky if you get a gig out of it. It's just a different scene. But you know what? I've pushed through it. You guys have pushed through it. You got an amazing thing going on. And I feel there's a whole lot more that people have yet to see, because I'm rejuvenated right now. I got a second wind in life.
Well, that's what we like to hear, man.
Yeah.
And we're very appreciative of having you on the show. You've been a big part of New York nightlife history, and especially in the music scene.
I appreciate the opportunity, guys. Thank you.
You made some pretty big records that impacted a lot of people's lives on the dance floor.
Well, I mean, hopefully they continue to party reasonably. Some of these kids today, these young kids, I mean, I look up to, I listen to the music, and I'm like, they got to be really cranked off their faces to some of this music.
Are there any producers now that you, new guys that you're into?
Well, again, I listen to all that. When I'm in the gym, people be like, what does Plasmic Honey listen to when he's in the gym trying not to be a fat old guy? When I'm on the treadmill, I'll listen to Adam Beyer. He's got this great drum code, and I love the techno. I love the dirty techno. Chusa Sabayo. Oscar G has a great SoundCloud podcast that he's always doing. Boris has Transmissions. I love all that stuff. But when I go out and make that stuff, it's not totally me. I love progressive house music, I love, for me, it's got to tell a story. I know it sounds cliche, but it's got to take you on a trip. It's got to take you on a journey, It's got to have an intro. It's got to have the beef, and then it's got to have an outro. But it's got to, a lot of these records today I really like listening to, but when I make them, I'm going, I did that in an hour. That didn't take any talent. There's no musical content in it. It's subliminal, the message. I get it. But for me, it's got to have a little bit more content.
You must be sitting on a ton of tracks.
I am. I'm such a guy that won't release something until I really feel it. So today I'm going to do classics. The next time you guys, if you guys invite me back on, you'll hear my new sound and material from the new album that I'm going to set my foot forward and work on now.
All right, well, we're going to get to it because you only have 20 minutes left.
No, I can play 900 records. Joe Buzz and Richie are constantly making fun of me. I'm going to play 900 records right now.
Thanks for coming down, bro.
Pleasure.
We'll
Thank
take
you
a
for
minute break.
having
We're
me,
going to
man.
get Plasmic Honey up on the decks. Peace.